I'd like to draw your attention to a big success story, PSU banks. They had a lost decade, now they are back on track. The balance sheet is recapitalized. The NPAs are completely over. But operationally, do you think a lot needs to be done there? Because if I look at the ratios for PSU banks, they have a lot to catch up if you compare them with the private sector.
Absolutely, but there is a good lot of change there. They are lots more professional now. They're able to speak for themselves. They're not speaking as though, all right, even if I fail, there is somebody behind me who's going to keep unquestioningly giving me. That culture has changed. I can, even in my short period as a finance minister, I can tell you the way in which from the time you start your budget preparations, there would be early whispers or calls, and then also some heavy recommendations for recapitalizing banks. And it was as though if you didn't, they'll collapse. Gradually we moved from there, and now there's not just one call anywhere, not even one word anywhere saying, are you planning to recapitalize? No, banks have realized that they can stand on their feet. They can raise market monies from the market, and they realize it actually gives them a better spine with which they can stand up and speak. So there's no more, it's all right, there's somebody to support me. No, I can perform, I will perform, I'll show that I can perform. That sense is coming. You were right in saying one thing, that there's a bit more of management certainty, tenure certainty, and decision making to the extent of middle management. The top managements are all fine, they are totally seized of what they want. I think the middle management needs that kind of a confidence in decision making. So those are elements which we will have to infuse, and the banks will have to build consciously in themselves, so that they can become completely professional and behave at par or even better than the private banks.
But Madam Minister, if we have to become the third largest economy in this decade, we need capital and we need world-class infrastructure. Now we are a capital-starved country, which means we'll have to rely on foreign capital. And infrastructure really needs to take a giant leap forward. How will we achieve that?
This capital-starved country, I would like to have a bit of a rethink on that line. I would have said that in 2019. But the way in which domestic capital was available for people who are smart enough to use them, smart enough with good books to use them, and also their readiness to also get into the market, were all, the myths were disproved in 2020 and in subsequent 21 as well. So there is not a scarcity of capital. It is there, it's lying dormant. It has got to be knocked to be made awake. May not be sufficient, I grant that, may not be sufficient. But if this starts moving and moving in the way in which it favors greater, moving into areas of productivity, foreign capital will not be waiting for too long. But I'm not saying foreign capital is waiting for this trigger to happen, that's anyway coming. But the delta will be a lot more if our fellows, within India are able to wake up and see what's before them.
On infrastructure, it's the government capital. Government is doing a lot of heavy lifting. Now we can argue that private sector is committing to capex cycle, but looking at the size of the opportunity, the entire determination of the government